What's up, y'all? This is your girl, Namia Carnice, with another edition of She's Namia's High Heel and Lipstick Conversations, where we have topics for the mature woman, the grown woman, the seasoned woman from every walk of life. We aim to uplift, empower, educate, and encourage the woman within, mind, body, and spirit. So let's get to it, y'all. It's High Heels and Lipstick Conversations with your girl, Namia. Y'all come on and tap in. Hello. Good evening, smooches. How is it going this evening? I'm going to give a little opportunity for some folks to come on into the room so we can have some conversation on this evening. It is your girl. She is Namia Carnice, and we have a very good, important conversation that is happening on this evening. We are talking about the emotional care for Black women. And so we're going to get into that conversation in just a little bit. But before we do that, I want those who are just checking in for the first time. This is your first time. You're like, who is this? She is Namia. I don't even know how to pronounce Namia, Nemia. Namia, who is that? I wanted to share with you a little bit about high heels and lipstick conversations. Because people have asked, is this a podcast? You know, what is high heels, lipsticks, and conversation all about? What is She is Namia? And simply put, this is conversation. This is dialogue. This is grown woman conversation. I'm in my middle age, or what I would think of as my middle age, nearing my middle age, my mid 40s. And so my thought process, the way I think about things, my desires, my hopes, my dreams, they've changed a little bit since I've been in my 20s and my 30s. And so nearing this, what I call this seasoned life, where you've learned a little bit from your mistakes, you learned a little bit from your past, you've matured, you're grown now, you've put away childish ways, as the Bible says. And when you hear high heels and lipsticks, you think of grown ass women. So that's what high heels and lipstick conversation is all about. And so these conversations that we have, whether you call it a podcast or you just tap in and, here or there or what have you, it's all about real grown conversation, real sexy, real classy, real bossy, real ladylike. Conversations that's going to challenge you, hopefully some conversations that's going to change you. I'm a Black woman. That's how I identify. So I'm all about conversations that are relevant to us as Black women. And so that's high heels and lipstick conversations. And so I'm going to be bringing you more topics like this one that we are talking about on this evening. If you checked in with me just about almost a month ago, for the very first high heels and lipstick conversation, it was all about what about your friends, especially as we have entered this season of our life. And so if you didn't see that live broadcast, I ask you to go and check out the videos on She is Namia Facebook page, or you could go to my YouTube page and you can see the replay of those videos, and just see how we launched on last month, March 31st. And take a peek into my sister circle and why it's important to have good women around you. And so we're going to talk to another good woman that is part of my sister circle on tonight. But our topic for tonight is emotional care for Black women. And let me tell you why this is important for us as a whole, as Black women. And then I will tell you why it's important for me when we bring on our guests. And before I get into that, if you are checking in, I want to see your comments. I want you to engage in the conversation with me on tonight. So if you are in the chat checking in, why don't you put some kissy some red kissy lips in the chat, smooches or some smooches in the chat. Let me know that you're checking in just so that I can see who is here on this evening. And as we are conversing on this evening, I want you to share your thoughts, share your feedback. If there's something that is said that is of interest, I will either try to highlight your comment or either read your comment. And I'm working with multiple screens, so I will, engage you in the conversation. I want to hear your thoughts on this evening. But why this topic is so important for us as Black women? It's really important just because it's necessary. But let me give you some statistics. And this is per the Psychiatric Times State of Mental Health for Black Women. They do a minority report. They did this minority report back in September. And these are just a couple, quotes from that report. But it says women experience depression at rates twice that of men. But Black women are only half as likely to seek care as our counterpart white women. So we experience depression as Black women. We go through things get us down. We experience grief. We experience loss. We experience all of these things, but we are not likely to go get care because we pray about it. We just pray on it. We just go to church on it. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to go and seek the Lord. But sometimes we need some professional help with that as well. Other statistics. Some mental health providers believe that they are some of the most disadvantaged people in the United States, talking about Black women, often simultaneously experiencing racism, sexism, and at times financial inequality. So not only do we not seek help as Black women, we got all this other stuff that's stacked up against us because we are experiencing racism, sexism, financial hard times, Superwoman Syndrome. We think we can do it all because we're used to doing it all, because our mama did it all, because Big Mama did it all. And so we have to do it all. Since women experience depression at rates twice that of men, society may expect the percentage of Black women receiving care to mirror that of white women. However, Black women are only half as likely to seek care. And historically, studies have shown that Black individuals are less likely to seek and subsequently accept mental health care secondary to concerns regarding stigma. For example, Black women diagnosed with something such as postpartum depression are less likely to accept medication recommendations and therapy. Although this difference in participation in care is often attributed to stigma, that means we don't want people to think we're crazy. Okay. If we go and sit on somebody's couch, or we go seek help, or if we go to a life coach, or we go seek therapy or resources, we are more likely to feel embarrassed by going to seek out help than we are feeling the need to go seek help. Okay. But again, although this difference in participation in care is often attributed to stigma, recent data show that stigma is not one of the main reasons that Black women do not seek help. Instead, their willingness to seek care often depends on their prior experience with mental health treatment. So that tells us that there's even disparity. When we go seek help, there's even disparity amongst our community for us as Black women. Okay, so just going to seek therapy sometimes or professional help, we often face inequalities even in going to seek help. Okay, so identifying barriers to care in a timely manner is important. As depression severity increases, Black women become less likely to pursue care. And so tonight I want to talk about emotional care for Black women. Sometimes we have to do some self-care. And I am reading this book. I'll share a little bit about the book that I'm reading, but this book is called Emotional Self-Care for Black Women. It's by Tiara Coleman. It is on Amazon, so check the book out. It is a good read thus far. And Tiara touches on so many different concepts about when we talk about emotional care for us as Black women. We She talks about the roots of our mental health and our emotional health. Like, what's the stuff that's deep down in us that's causing some of this emotional breakdown and mental breakdown that we see. And that can range from childhood traumas. It could range from beauty standards, what we see in the media, how we're portrayed in the media. It can stem from some of the struggles that we face in society. It can stem from the Superwoman Syndrome. You know, we got to get it done. We can be the only one that get it done, and can't nobody do it like I do it. And I don't say no because I'm gonna do it all because I have the strength to do it all. Ladies, that is wreaking havoc on our souls and our spirits. We cannot do it all. Sometimes we got to say no. And I'm preaching to the choir because I'm the one that needs to hear that the most. But so we're experiencing mental health issues because of that. We're experiencing the lack of mental health resources. Sometimes it's our relationships that we in. Sometimes we need to let go of some friendships, some folks that's in our lives. It's wreaking havoc on our spirits and our mental and our health. It's our diet and our exercise as Black women. It's our self sabotaging behaviors, how we feel about ourselves, our self worth, our self value, what we see when we look in the mirror, how we feel when we wake up, how we project those feelings onto other folks. Again, it could be childhood trauma. And then sometimes it's just lack of awareness that we have these issues going on. We just don't deal with them. Okay. And that is huge in our community too. We just don't deal with stuff that's going on inside of us. So um, we want to talk about that tonight. And so, my dear friend, Cassandra Raine-Francis is going to help me to have that conversation on tonight. And before I bring her on, I just want to say we have been friends for a very long time. We are college buddies. She is one of the ladies that is in my sister circle, one of the ladies that I am very proud of. I remember partying with her back in the day and us just being young in our, barely 20 when we first met, but just growing up very young in our early 20s and just learning life together. And so I'm very pleased to have her on this evening. But let me share you a little bit about Miss Cassandra. But she started Life After Love women's ministry in February of 2014. She has always had a passion for helping women to grow, helping women to heal and transform into what God has called them to be. Cassandra is a certified personal, professional, and grief coach. So we're going to get into some of that grief on tonight as well. She wrote a best-selling Amazon best-selling prayer journal, which I have right here. It is Life After Love. LLC, Rebuild, Renew, Restore, a journal for starting over. You can find this book on Amazon. Go to Amazon after this broadcast, after this stream, and go find this book. Journaling is so important to our emotional and mental health. Um, and she is available throughout the community. So she does a lot of coaching. She has clients and things of that nature. She is also in the process of writing a book that reveals her struggle from trial to triumph in her personal life. And so I just want to go ahead and bring forth my friend, Cassandra Raine-Francis. We're going to talk more about journaling. We're going to talk more about emotional self-care. And we want you to join in the conversation with us. So welcome on board, my friend, Cassandra. Hey there. Hey, girl.
Hey! I'm so excited to be on. I got a little teary eyed because it brought back so many memories. Just as just told that about our college days, and we have been friends for such a long time. And I'm just so proud of you too, Miss
Thank you.
Namia. She is Namia.
Yes.
So thank you for inviting me on this platform. I'm excited.
Well, I'm glad to. We got a story to tell, don't we? We got some. If the folks only knew some of the stories
Woo!
that.
If walls could talk.
when we were young, when we were young. Well, I again thank you for being here on this evening. And again, if you are checking in, we want you to share in the conversation, join in on the conversation on this evening. Share your thoughts, and just join in the conversation. And so I want to go here. Um, and Cassandra, you share. I want to start here. Share a little bit about the work that you do first, but share with us why this conversation is important to you personally. Emotional care for Black women.
All right. So I think I'll reverse it. I think I'll share why it's important and then I'll get into kind of
Okay.
what I do.
Yeah.
This conversation was a no-brainer, topic for me. I'm so glad that you asked me to be in on it. I know you said you had some things that you would want me to talk about and come on and discuss, but the fact that you didn't share exactly what it was when I saw the topic, I was like, yeah, that's the one.
Hmm.
So my mother is a product of mental illness.
Hmm.
My mother had me at 14, and she had my sister 7 years later, and she experienced postpartum depression. And from postpartum depression, it went to manic episodes and bipolar and schizophrenia and that type of nature. And so that's kind of what my childhood looked like, is
Hmm.
dealing as a child, seeing a parent go through these things, not really understanding, battling my own, concerns as it relates to seeing my mother and protecting my sister and all of that. And so that's why this topic has been so close to home for me, because I experienced it. I lived
Hmm.
through it. And not only did I live through it, I always was looking around to make sure that my mental health was in check.
Right. Yeah.
Did I overreact? When I remember when I had my children, I wanted to make sure that, okay, was this normal? Should I have reacted this way? Is this too much? And so that has always been near and dear to my heart as we talk about mental illness and emotional care, is because I experienced and I lived it. And so, therefore, that's kind of where ministry came into. I would say that I've been in ministry longer than 2014, but Life After Love birthed then, from hurt and watching other people go through their experiences and hurt and church hurt and different
Yeah.
things, grief. I've been with the government agency for over 13 years, and I listen to parents, file claims for their children that are disabled, and for people that have their own mental illness struggles, that everything is going well, and then all of a sudden they break, they crack. So I just
Hmm.
became more interested in how does this happen.
Right.
And so started the ministry going strong. We moved away from Life After Love, called it the Young Women's Ministry. And in this pandemic, after losing so much and grieving so much, with not just death, but many other different things, um, my grandfather passed away, and coaching is something I've always been interested in. And it just, in a turn of events, I was able to go and attend coaching school. I finally invested in myself,
Yes.
which
Invest in yourself.
we don't do all the time.
Right.
And I got my certification, and that's really where the journey began as it relates to coaching officially. So here I am, but that's the backstory of why I've always been drawn to women and dealing with their emotional care and mental illness as a whole.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the things that you said made me kind of take note for why this is important for me. You said you saw your mother,
Hmm.
so it's always it kind of goes to some of that childhood trauma we experience, and obviously as Black women we often see our matriarchs or the women in our family experience mental health issues, emotional health issues, but we don't often know how. When we're young and we're viewing it from a young child's perspective or a young teen's perspective, we don't know what terms to put it on. We don't know the impact that it's having on us at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I had a very good childhood, but you see your mother go through grief and pain from relationships and things of that nature, and then you experience your own relationships and griefs and pain. And you some things are just embedded, and you have to grow out of. So for me, I think this is important because more recently in experiencing death, for the first time, I can say for myself that I've ever said, I'm not okay. I don't feel okay.
Mm.
And even though I felt pain and grief and emotional issues over the years, I had learned through learned behavior just to not talk about it, not to get help for it. You just pray about it. And I'm not saying that prayer doesn't work or prayer doesn't help or seeking God doesn't help in that, because it definitely does. But I never in the past went to go get help for the things that I was experiencing or feeling, because that's just something we don't do. It's like
Right.
the statistics say Black women don't go and get care. And so, more recently, after experiencing 4 deaths in the past year and a half to 2 years, I was willing to admit that I am not okay. I am feeling some kind of way, instead of trying to hide the pain and hide the grief that I was going through. So, definitely. So, share with us a little bit about, from your perspective, why do you think that there is a rise in emotional and mental health issues for us as Black women? Because statistics will show that there is. We even just saw more recently the death of the young lady who I think she was a Miss USA, or correct me if I'm wrong, um, and she committed suicide because she was feeling some kind of way towards herself because of her age. And mind you, she was only in her 30s. And so we're starting to see more and more cases of women experiencing these kind of emotional and mental health issues. So why do you think, from your perspective and what you've seen since you've been in the coaching and counseling field, the rise, or have you seen the rise, I guess I should say?
I have, and before I go there, I just wanted to commend you for seeking out, help or assistance and getting what you need. But I think that's the issue. I think you've said a lot that we just do not. We've been taught to just take it and not get the self care that we need.
Hmm.
We take care of everybody else, our spouse or partner or our children. We are running our businesses and jobs and maybe ministry and volunteer and just so many different hats that we do not take the time out to take care of ourselves. And sometimes by the time we recognize or realize that there's something really going on, it may be too far gone. Um, and I also think social media plays a big part of
Yes.
everybody wants to have, the snatched bodies and,
Yes.
the long inches potentially, or maybe if you're natural, my natural curls doesn't look like this natural. I mean, there's so much that we see on social media that we glorify, some of us women, and if we're not of the standard, because natural bodies and natural women,
Hmm.
they're really not the norm anymore, it seems.
Yeah. You can
Because
you can
what
tell when people that got work done
yeah,
nowadays.
well, most of the time, what's getting glorified is
Hmm.
not the natural woman, right?
Right.
And so social media has just taken off by storm. And
Yeah.
I really do think that that is some of the reason, because people are looking at other people's lives and they are not that, or their lives are not that, or their marriage is not that, and they are equating what people post to what their life is really like. And I really think that they feel that they're missing out, or there is no joy, or they're trying to compare.
Mm-hmm.
And it is starting to really affect them emotional and mental well-being, especially if you snoop in and you see an ex. That could really set you off sometimes, that may be doing better, or looking at the new partner, just different things. But I really do think social media is one of the major causes of it for our community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Miss
Miss
Shakita
Shakita
said
said
that
that
she
she
thinks
thinks
that
that
we are
we are
becoming
becoming
more
more
aware.
aware. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More
More
aware.
aware.
But
But
unfortunately,
unfortunately,
the
the
statistics
statistics
still
still
say
say
that we
that
are
we are
not
not
seeking
seeking
out
out
care
care. Right.
at the
At the
same
same
rate
rate
as
as
our
our
as
as
white
white
women, I
women.
guess I should say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we're
So we're
more
more
aware
aware
that
that
we
we
need
need
it.
it. You know,
It's
it's
being
being
talked
talked
about
about
more.
more.
Thus,
Thus,
we're
we're
here
here
today on
today
this
on this
platform
platform
talking
talking
about it.
about it.
But we
But we
really
really
need
need
to
to
push
push
that
that
we need
we
to
need to
seek
seek
help,
help. Right.
even for
Even
our
for our
young
young
girls.
girls.
And you
And you
mentioned
mentioned
the
the
social
social
media
media
aspect of
aspect
it.
of it.
That
That
is
is
very
very
true.
true.
At
At
one
one
time, I
time,
would
I would
say
say
that
that
was
was
really
really
true for
true for
young
young
girls
girls
because we
because we
see,
see,
they're on
they're on
Instagram, they're
Instagram,
on
they're
some
on
of
some of
these
these
social
social
media
media
sites that
sites
we
that
don't
we
even
don't
know
even know
about
about
because
because
we're
we're
older and
older, and
all we
all
know
we
is
know is
Facebook and
Facebook,
we're
and we're
just
just
getting
getting
into
into
Instagram.
Instagram.
But they, I
I
read an
read an
article
article
once
once
before that
before that
said
said
the
the
young
young
girls,
girls,
the
the
rate
rate
of
of
at
at
which
which
young
young
girls
girls
are
are
becoming
becoming
bulimic or
bulimic or
taking
taking
on
on
eating
eating
disorders is
disorders is
due
due
to
to
the images that
images
they
that they
see
see
on
on
social
social
media
media. Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
what
And
they what's
what's
displayed
displayed
across
across
screen.
screen. Right. Right.
So we
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I would definitely agree with that. And as far as the awareness, how many times do we know Aunt so and so and Uncle Joe, and that's just how they are. Oh, they crazy, but they've never sought help themselves. And so we've watched undiagnosed mental illness go on for so long that we equate, we're not like that. I mean,
Right.
right. Yeah, we're not walking around here crazy and all that. We're not that, but mental illness and emotional neglect looks very different. It can show up in all different types of forms. So just because we're not walking around here talking crazy or maybe having suicidal thoughts, we automatically assume that we're okay, that there's nothing wrong, we can handle it on our own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
You
made a
made
good
a good
point.
point.
Share with
Share with
us
us
the
the
ways
ways
in
in
which
which
mental and
mental and
emotional
emotional
issues
issues
come
come
up
up
in the
in the
everyday
everyday
woman,
woman,
because you
because you
said
said
that
that
sometimes we
sometimes we
equate
equate
mental health
mental health
issues
issues
with
with
talking to
talking to
yourself,
yourself,
schizophrenia,
schizophrenia,
some of
some
these
of these
other
other
illnesses.
illnesses.
But
But
what
what
ways
ways
in the
in the
ladies that
ladies
you
that you
coach and
coach and
minister
minister
to
to
have you
have you
seen
seen
that
that
mental
mental
issues
issues
or
or
emotional
emotional
issues
issues
have
have
come up?
come up? Oh yeah, it comes out one way or the other in the body. Whether it's pain or weight gain or weight loss, or headaches. Um, Typically, when I do a coaching, I try to do some type of breathing technique or exercise just to get the lungs flowing and breathing and relaxation. But I always ask, like, where do you experience this in your body? Like, and they can pretty much point to it. Like, that was kind of a new concept to me when I started to coach. But
Hmm.
then when you ask the question, people can pretty much tell you, like, where they are feeling the tenseness in their body, or the aches or the pains, as it associates with emotional, something going on with them emotionally. So it definitely shows up in the body. You can have stomach issues.
Hmm.
There's just so many different things that can show up. Breakouts, acne. You can start to have anxiety,
Oh yeah.
chest palpitations, many different ways that this shows up if it is not dealt with. You know, um, your mood changes, the way that you react. You can snap off a little more with your children or with
Oh
your
yeah.
family. So it shows up in a variety of ways, but it really is prevalent in the body.
Yeah. I I find that so my first time ever experiencing a panic attack, again, I'm one of those individuals, and someone said that there's a slight echo. I don't know, maybe your audio is louder on
Oh,
your end. That may could be.
okay.
Um, but my first time experiencing a panic attack is when I was driving to it from Northwest Indiana to Indianapolis. I was in the midst of selling my home at the time in Indianapolis, and I was going back and forth. And I was with at that time he was my then fiance, um, my husband. And we were going back to go pack up the house or do something. And I had such an enormous amount of stress on me at the time. I was
Mm.
living in Northwest Indiana during the week. I had just taken on a new career. Um, and going back and forth to Indianapolis every week. So I'm one place during the week and another place on the weekend trying to get the house on the market. I was just doing a whole lot.
Right.
And in the midst of driving, in the middle of driving, I started to hyperventilate.
Mm.
And I was like grasping for air, and I didn't know what was going on. So my husband was looking at me like, "Are you are you okay?" Like, and I had never experienced a panic attack before in my life because I take on stress and it accumulates, and I don't always talk about what I'm going through because I always have the happy face. I'm always happy or trying to make somebody else happy or make somebody else feel good. And I don't invest in my own emotional well-being. That's just who I am. And so experiencing that panic attack for the first time, it scared me
Mm.
because it was real. That was the first time. The second time, I felt like my heart was going to come out of my chest.
Mm.
And it was like God was telling me, you're doing way too much. You do too much.
Right.
And as Black women, I talked a little bit earlier about the Superwoman Syndrome.
Oh yeah.
We got to learn to let that go.
Yep. The power of no.
Gotta learn to let it go. So let's talk a little bit about that, the superwoman syndrome, where you and sometimes we have no choice but to do it all because we're single mothers.
Yeah.
I grew up with a single mother. My mother had a single mother. They were married at one time, but eventually, divorces happen, families break up. Um, and so you learn to just be superwoman. My mama's the mama that will move furniture or used to move furniture. She's a little older now. But my mama's the type of if nobody's there to help her, she'll get to moving some furniture by herself. She don't need no help.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so growing up under a mother that you saw very strong and would move furniture by herself, I took on those same kinds of behaviors.
Right.
So let's talk about the superwoman syndrome and the impact it has on us, especially as Black women trying to do it all. Have you been there though? I
I'm
know
not
you.
sure. I'm not sure that I'm out of there.
Yeah,
No,
yeah. If
I'm
we
doing
honest and real
much
about it,
better. I'm doing much better than I used to. I'm learning when to hold and when to fold, when to say no. The power of no is
yes,
so powerful. Like I have to be careful because I've gotten really acquainted with that
yes,
with that no. Um, but you do. You want to be there, especially for the people that have people pleasing personalities,
yes.
for people that are servants, for people that, are helpers.
Mhm,
My Enneagram, I'm a number two, so I'm a helper. And
mhm.
so it wasn't until then that I really discovered and read some things about myself that I was like, okay, that's why I do this. That
Mhm.
and maybe it doesn't mean this. And I really had to search deep. That's why self discovery is so important.
It's so important.
To find out why you do what you do. I did a genogram not long ago, and that told me a story
Tell
about.
us what's a genogram.
It's so powerful. It's not a family tree.
Uh-huh.
It is basically trying to gather information, right?
Okay.
And so for mine, I discovered that my mother's side had a long line of mental illness, right?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I just went back to my grandparents. I
Yeah.
didn't go back further than that. But when I look at the history and everybody associated, on that side was a long line of mental illness. My dad's side was a long line of diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then um, there's some questions that you ask. I'm in this mind body medicine training, getting ready to be certified for that. And I'm finding out that these sicknesses and illnesses, it may not just be the food. It may be, anger and trauma and generational resentment and different things like that. And so when I got to me, praise God, I was able, you make yourself different from everybody else. And
Mm-hmm.
I broke the mold. Me and my family broke the mold of that. And
Mm-hmm.
so I want to continue on that path. I want to continue to be a generational, pattern breaker.
Right.
And so basically, that's what it is. You can start back, as far as you want, but it tells you a picture. Whether you're looking for, and it doesn't have to be negative. It could
Right.
be, I come from a long line of artists, or I come from a long line of servants, or musicians, or whatever. But it's to tell a story or paint a picture about why you may be or experiencing certain things about you. And it was very powerful for me to see on paper. There's something that I knew, there's some things that I knew, but when I saw it on paper, it completely changed the game for me. So
Right.
self discovery is important.
Self-discovery, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. So the superwoman syndrome, you said you don't think that you've really gotten out of that mode.
I'm still working because I have a lot of hats right now. I'm super busy every day. I've got kids that are 18, 14, 3.
Yeah.
Everybody needs me at every different stage. One's graduating, one's in preschool, one's in high school. I've got businesses and I work full time and yeah. So I I have a lot
Yeah.
going on, and I really have to just be very cautious of the things that I take on because
Mm-hmm.
this grief work is very heavy. It's
Oh yeah.
very heavy in internalizing the things that people experience that are you wouldn't even imagine or believe, and to hold space and to hold that in. I just have to make sure that I take time for myself. And
Yes. Yes.
lately, for me, it's a bath. It's taking a hot bath. It doesn't cost any money. I wait till everybody's gone to bed. I might sleep, whatever. I'm not recommending to do that,
Right.
but that is my relaxation time. That is me spending time. That is me getting a cleansing. That's
Yeah.
me having my talk with God. But yeah, that superwoman syndrome, that I can do it all, it will wear you down.
It will wear you thin. Listen, let me read a little excerpt from this book as it relates to the Superwoman syndrome. It said the current definition of a strong, successful, and proudly Black woman has proven to be crushing, and many women crumble under the weight of it all.
Ooh.
When it all gets too heavy to carry, which often leaves you feeling like a failure, insecurity creeps in, and you begin to question why you are the only one who can't do it all, like
Mhm.
all the other Black women who have come before you. If they can do it all on their own, why can't I? And so that's just one of the many aspects of this superwoman syndrome, and it's easier said than done, right? And so I like what you said, that you find me time
Mhm.
sometimes in our efforts to find me time, we become guilty, especially if we're mothers, if we're wives, um, and our world becomes centered around their world, which is so easy for us, right? As a mother, as a wife,
Absolutely. Yes.
as caretakers, our parents are older now, it's easy for us to consume others in our world, and then their world becomes ours. And so if we want to step away from that, if we admit to ourselves, I just need a day. It don't even have to be a spa day. Listen, I just need to go hang with my girlfriends or go out to dinner, with my girlfriends, or just, you know, go shopping, or, whatever it is that, go work out, whatever is considered your me time. Sometimes we take on guilt,
Right.
and I've been there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too.
I take on guilt if I'm not always doing something.
Mhm.
I feel like I'm not pushing towards success, or I'm not being proactive enough. Have you seen cases of that in your coaching?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Um, I read a study once where it talked about people being busy and filling up every moment um, with something, and sometimes it's about avoidance.
Hmm.
Because if you are constantly busy with every second and every minute and every day, it's filled with something you have to do. It could be avoidance of something that you need to do for yourself.
Yeah. It could
Um,
be avoidance of sitting with yourself
Absolutely,
and
yes,
facing yourself. Yeah.
absolutely. And so that really had me thinking. It had me thinking, and I'm not saying that every person that's busy is avoiding something, but if you are that person that has your calendar just filled, and not by people seeking you all the time, but maybe you seeking things, um, I would definitely ask yourself the question: am I avoiding something that I
Hmm.
need to work or fix with me? Um,
Hmm.
and so, yeah, I see it all the time. I
Yeah.
see it very regularly. And a lot of times, women don't know how to stop that pattern. And
Yeah.
all the things that you said are really great, but I have been really trying to make a point to get my clients to think about things that does not cost money, because that's another thing that we do as women. We we equate self care with with a cost. I gotta get my nails done. I gotta get my hair done. I gotta,
Hmm.
go shopping. I gotta drink some
Yes.
wine. I gotta go out to eat.
Yes.
And that's okay. That's okay. But then sometimes that can replace some other things, and then all of a sudden you're drinking wine every other day.
Yeah.
You're eating
Ooh.
out every other day.
Ooh.
You're finding yourself in a different pattern of behavior that's not really self-serving either.
Yeah.
So I just try to get them to think of things. Go to the park, like you say, go to the gym, or take a bath, or read a book, journal, listen to a podcast. Just some private time with you and only you, even if it's 2 minutes.
Yeah.
It's important to do.
Yeah. Tanikia said, my therapist literally just explained the Superwoman Syndrome to me. I never knew it was a thing. It definitely is a thing. And a lot of women deal with it, or experience it. Sometimes we don't realize we're in Superwoman Syndrome. We have the Superwoman Syndrome. And I would say in a minute, Superwoman is dead. But then I also have to preach to myself, right?
We need reminders.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing that impacts us. So we have the Superwoman syndrome where we feel we have to do it all. We always have to be on point. We always have to be the one in charge. We can't say no. Um, there are several things that pull at us emotionally that sometimes we have to learn to break ties with. So we have the Superwoman Syndrome, and then we have um, the things that pull us, the things and the people,
Yeah.
let me put it like that,
Right.
that pull at us emotionally and pull at us mentally. And this could be family relationships, this could be romantic relationships. And I've been there. I've gone into, in the past, I've gone into a deep depression over a relationship
Mhm.
or a lack thereof, or what have you.
Right.
Um, and not realizing that I was depressed.
Right.
And I was just going about my day to day. Um, and slowly, depression, it just came out of nowhere.
Mhm.
And it was like I remember being the summertime, and it was like the sun was shining brightly every day, but it felt dark, like the storm cloud was following me everywhere I went.
Mm.
And when I came out of that depression, it happened one Sunday. My pastor was preaching about depression, and it was just like after that, I just came out of that. But I remember thinking, even now, I'm like, I don't ever want to go to that dark space
Mhm.
again,
Right.
especially as it relates to a relationship, or
Yeah. Right.
you know. Um, let's talk about, have you ever been there as it relates to, and it
Whew.
doesn't just have to be a man, like
Yeah.
that's our story, that's all our stories, but
Right.
how sometimes people can draw
Mhm.
from us and deplete our strength, and these deplete our mental and emotional health.
Yeah. Life after love, right?
Right.
It did not come by osmosis. Absolutely. Loving something, a person, can take you out if you don't love yourself more,
Yeah.
whatever that may be, um, and whoever that may be. And yes, absolutely. I, sometimes even good things, even things that are good for you and for others, can still take a toll on you if you're not careful on the way you go about it. I
Yeah.
read that once in a devotional, and it really made me think, like, oh, that is a lot. I'm putting a lot on myself because I want to be better. I want to serve. I want to do these things. But if it's costing you and causing detriment to your health because you don't have enough time for yourself or to your family or to your spouse, and I understand there's seasons.
Hmm.
I get that there's seasons, but if it's not a season and this is consistently what you do day in and day out, these types of things can really deplete you. It can suck the joy from you. I remember when you told me that you experienced that, I was utterly surprised,
Hmm.
because I just, I, I didn't see it.
Hmm.
I didn't see it. I mean, we were younger then,
Because
but,
we good at covering up. I
but
learned at
yes,
a very young age, as a very young woman, how to cover up my pain.
right, right. Um, for me, I really, I I've never went or experienced depression, but I have had some very deep hurt. And for me, I've never been ashamed to um, go through those emotions, right? I had my close girlfriends and I cry. I used to cry.
Hmm.
I mean, I was not ashamed of my hurt. And I had shared a lot of how I felt with my family, my friends, my closest friends, and I really think that that's what helped me to not be in that space.
Hmm.
My grandparents, they always fostered me to express the way that I feel. And I think that is what has kept me from going there, including my relationship with God.
Hmm.
Not that those people that suffer from that don't have that relationship, but I know that in those moments of deep, deep hurt, I just I would I would express my emotions. I would cry until I could not cry anymore. I would share, my hurt. I would talk about it. I would testify. I would
Mhm.
let it out. And I
Yeah,
think that's what has kept me from, you know, going to a depressed state. I think what really causes sometimes for us to get there is because we want to hold it all in. We don't want to show. Now, when I did go through my divorce, a lot of people say they would have never have known it. Certain situations, any type of sickness, or a lot of people never know it. But it doesn't mean that I'm holding it all in.
right.
I'm sharing with somebody that
Yeah,
pain. Um, so
yeah.
yeah, I
That
think if
that's
we hold it
important.
in,
And in that, I want to say, in our sharing, you gotta share with the right people.
oh my
Like
God,
you gotta know who to share your pain with, even if it's a friend, therapist, professional help, what have you. It has to be the right kind of people.
yes, discernment.
Yeah, you gotta discern who to share. You cannot share your pain, what you're going through. You can't share that with everybody.
You cannot.
Everybody's not qualified um to be able to, even if you just need to get it off your chest, you just can't share that with everybody. You have to be very discerning about who you share that with. But it is important to get that off. And
Right.
we're going to talk about journaling in a little bit too, because I think that's an important piece, and that's what your journal is all about.
Mhm.
um, the importance of that. And I want you to share the importance of that when we talk about some of the ways that we can care for ourselves. But so we talked about depression, we talked about the Superwoman syndrome, and how being connected to the wrong people can draw from you. I do want to read another just another excerpt from um, the book that I am reading. Again, if you're just checking in, I am reading a book that has some very good concepts. It's Tierra Coleman. You can find it on Amazon, Emotional Self Care for Women, for Black women. And she digs really, like, she has so much in this book. She talks about um, all the many facets of what drags us down as Black women. I mean, she talks about relationships. She talks about self love. She talks about having a support system, how important it is for us to have a support system. She talks about diet and exercise. She talks about social media and how sometimes social media is the culprit and the reason why sometimes we as Black women struggle with our emotional and mental health. She talks about a lot, so I recommend the book. It's an easy read. She ends the book with just giving some affirmations for us as Black women. But one of the things that she also talks about is relationships, and so I'm just read a little bit from that segment as it relates to um, relationships. And it says, this part is what really stands out to me. When you have good friends who cheer you on, who cheer on your progress in life, and you feel their support, your confidence gets a boost. So, again, last month we talked about how important it is to have a tight sister circle. You need some supportive people around you. And I think sometimes, like I said, I learned at a very good age how to cover up my pain, cover up my depression, cover up what I was going through. And I am now learning the importance of having people around you who have your back, that you can let your hair down with,
Yes.
that you can say, girl, I'm going through, or I feel this certain kind of way. Um, and just having a shoulder to lean on.
Right.
And it's very important when you are that shoulder, right?
Yeah.
Like when you're the person that a lot of people come to as the shoulder, is that uh, when you pour into people, it's very important that you have someone to pour into you. And
Absolutely.
so, by contrast, she continues on with that. When you are stuck in relationships where you are constantly feeling picked on, it is inevitable that you will start to believe their opinion of you as a fact. Many Black women are stuck in toxic relationships for various reasons, some of which they feel are unavoidable. And so I just thought that was important. How even the relationships around us,
Mm-hmm.
um, whether it's romantic relationships, family relationships, friendships, things of that nature, those can draw on our mental and emotional health. That can impact our self worth, our self value. So it's important to have the right people around you. What's your sister circle look like?
Oh, I have my day ones. You know, you're one of them.
Yeah.
But you know, a lot of times people say you're always on the phone, and that's because a lot of my very, very close relationships are not, you know, not local. They're not here. Some of my very, very, very close relationships. Not that I don't have, you know, closeness here, but I'm past the state of going and sitting at people's houses and you know things like that. I don't have company coming over. I'm busy. I don't go sit over anybody's house typically anymore. You know, unless it's planned. So I'm
Mhm.
on the phone. I'm on the phone with my prayer partners who are local. You know, I'm on the phone with the ladies from the women's ministry, and my sister circle is strong and very family oriented. I am grateful that I've come from or I've been accepted to a family that are we we pray together, we laugh together, we
Yeah.
celebrate together,
Yes.
but that is the lifeline. Um, but I definitely think that we have to set boundaries, and we're not used to setting boundaries. We're not used to setting boundaries in relationships,
Hmm.
and boundaries. You know, it can work for every relationship, even with you know our parents. Not long ago, I did a segment about parental wounds. And we're at the stage and the age where our parents are getting older
Hmm.
and different things like that. And so we're putting on that cape once again because we want to repay the things that they may or may not have done for us. But we want to try to be there for them. And so even in those relationships, we have to set boundaries for ourselves. We have to know what we can handle. And lots of times, society and other people have told us what we're supposed to be able to handle.
Hmm.
So it's very important that you have a circle that you can let your hair down and you can be transparent with, and that you can even set boundaries in those friendships and relationships
Hmm.
with. So it is important. I just love when I see a group of friends from you know way back get together, but I'm also, you know, out of the no new friend zone. I used to
Right.
kind of think that way, but
Yeah.
you know, as I've grown older, I've realized that God has really placed some people in my life that have been very, very instrumental. And it may not be a day one, but they still hold a lot of value in my life, and I can see the value that I bring to theirs too.
Yeah.
And so I think that your sister circle is very important, and to pray for discernment
Yeah.
regarding that circle.
Yeah. Yeah. One last thought before we just kind of dive into ending our conversation, but you also got to learn in those relationships. You got to learn when to let them go.
Mm.
Um, you got to learn when to let them go, ladies. We got to learn to let some relationships go, especially when they drag us down emotionally and mentally.
Absolutely.
Sometimes we got to choose self,
Yeah.
and it sounds selfish, but there are times where you have to put yourself, your self worth, your self value first,
Absolutely.
especially if it's bringing you down. One of my friends, Latanya, says that she was just speaking earlier today about toxic femininity and how it is at a all time high, especially as Black women.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a whole topic on it itself. Um, the toxic femininity. There is a such thing.
It is.
Um, as much as we say there's toxic masculinity, there is a such thing as toxic femininity. And the reason why we often see toxic femininity is because we got some stuff going on that we ain't let go, that we need to filter out. We got all this emotional and mental trauma
Hmm.
that, and this baggage, as Erica Badu would say, we carrying bags.
Right. Right.
We may be carrying Coach bags, but it's still bags. We make it
Right.
look nice.
Right.
We dress it up with makeup.
Yeah.
We get our face beat. We put our eyelashes on and all that good stuff. But we're still carrying bags, and that's often what leads to that toxic femininity, which we'll talk about. We'll talk about. We'll talk
Oh
about.
yeah, that's a deep discussion.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so what are some ways? I want to give you the floor for a little bit to talk about some ways that we can combat these emotional and mental health issues, and how can we care for ourselves? Yes, we know we can seek, um, you know, we can seek professional help, and that is definitely recommended.
Hmm.
If you have resources through your job, through your insurance provider, go and seek the professional help that you need. But you specifically, from your perspective, you specifically talk about journaling.
Hmm.
Thus, we have Life After Love, Rebuild, Restore, a journal for starting over. Can you tell us a little bit about the benefits of journaling and why it is beneficial in helping us to combat emotional and mental health issues?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a release. You
Hmm.
know, I mean, it's almost like you're walking around with your shoulders up, and then you just let it go. You know, it's a release of your emotions. It's putting it out on the table. It's allowing yourself to feel. It's allowing yourself to be free.
Yes.
I think people take for granted freedom. And sometimes we feel like that we may not have the freedom to say what we want to say.
Yeah.
But when you're journaling and you have the freedom to write down your inner thoughts, your emotions, your feelings, what's going on, your prayer requests.
Hmm.
And have in my later years found solace in going back and reading some of the things that I wrote before to see the prayers that have been answered, to see how I was feeling, to tap into kind of how far I've come, where I
Hmm.
still struggle and may need to dive deeper into some self evaluation. If I'm
Hmm.
still talking about the same thing from 10 years ago,
That's right. Yep.
so it is a level of expression that creates and fosters freedom. Even if you're not a writer, because I know that some people it just comes naturally. You know,
Yeah.
I've never had a problem with writing or poetry or any of that stuff. That just kind of came natural for me. But then I put it down, life got in the way, and I just, went about my business. But when I picked it back up and discovered just that revelation of how freeing it is
Yeah.
to express anything, it is it's very monumental and can be a great tool to be able to release. And anytime you release anything, it just feels good.
Right.
Uh, but let me add to that, Namia. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can have a negative feeling at first because if it's new, if it's not something that you've never done, and you just start journaling, you can feel a way because it's new and you're not really realizing that you're writing all of this stuff. And
Hmm.
so, you know, the body and the mind sometimes will want to reject those things that are not comfortable. And so I would just um, tell you to keep pushing, keep writing, keep doing those things, getting a pattern and behavior of doing that so that your mind doesn't trick you into thinking that it's not working, it's not helping, and cause you to resist.
Hmm. And so, how often do you recommend journaling? Is this something with your clients that you recommend every day? Is it as you feel, as as something is on your mind or your heart? How often do you recommend journaling?
I always talk to my clients about what comes up, right? There are some clients that journaling every day is not an issue, but there are some clients, if I told them to journal every day, they would, like, I'm already super busy and this is just something else I have to do. And, it would
Hmm.
send them into an anxiety panic.
Hmm.
But, but if you can journal every day, and that's your me time and that's your quality time in your space, absolutely.
Hmm.
Um, but you know, for a lot of people, especially women, journaling is when something comes up for them. When they
Hmm.
want to, when they're feeling something, when they feel like they need to release something, when there's something that's really heavy going on, and they don't know what to do with that. Just write.
Hmm.
So it really depends on the person and their schedule and their comfortability. But I would definitely say continue to do it. Be as consistent as you can with it because it does help. And if you're not one that journals every day and you just write as things comes up, you may find yourself starting to get into that habit of wanting to start to write every day. And by the time you know it, you might have a book yourself.
Hey, as authors speak it. So, in your experience, what has been what have you seen in terms of testimonies that maybe the women that you have ministered to or helped in your coaching classes, what has been their testimony as a result of journeying? How has it helped them, or what are some of the things that you have heard?
Um, I think the biggest thing is the shock factor. The shock of writing some of these things that they've never had the courage or the bravery to say,
Hmm.
either to someone or just out loud, period. I know
Hmm.
one technique that I use in my coaching is if I'm trained to listen to things that are not being said. And
Hmm.
so once a client finally says it, I have them to say, no, I need you to say that again. Because sometimes they just brush past it. They don't even realize that they're saying it. And I say, well, how does it feel to say that out loud? And then a lot of times there's so much emotion involved in that. And so journaling is the same way. They don't realize that they have actually written this thing out loud. And once they do, it frees them into even more self discovery,
Hmm.
to be able to promote healing. It's for healing. It
Yes.
really is truly for healing and setting free.
Yes. Yes. So, if you had to summarize our conversation on today and give your final thought about the emotional state of Black women, emotional care for Black women, what would you say to those who are checked into us, those on Facebook, those on YouTube? What would you say to the ladies who are watching us today about the importance of emotional self care for Black women?
I would say just really take the time out to um, do some self discovery, accept your patterns and behaviors. And you may not be in a position to where you can assess it yourself, but if something feels off, please, please share. Like Namia said, maybe go through your EAP system or contact your insurance company. Seek the help that you need. Self care is not selfish.
Right.
Emotional care is not something to be ashamed of or feel guilty about. You would be so surprised the many women that experience the same things. That's why I love working with women because it doesn't matter in any age sometimes or economic background or demographics, we experience a lot of the same things. Yours may be an apple, mine's may be an orange, but it's a fruit that we can identify with.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say definitely before it gets to a point of overwhelm, or even if you are already at that point, try to reach out to somebody to seek even further, um, to be able to assist you in that healing journey, whether it be a coach, whether it be a therapist, whether it be, someone at the church, or if you're affiliated with, just seek more to be able to uncover and discover, the whys and the root of the
Mm-hmm.
issue. A lot of times we want to address things on surface level,
Yeah.
and that's not enough. We
Yeah.
want to address it and to get down to the root so that we can stop the pattern, so we can stop the curses, so we can stop those behaviors, so that it doesn't affect our children, if you have any, or so it doesn't go on from generation to generation. We can be the people that break the mold.
Yeah.
And to be able to say that is so powerful.
Yes.
It's not just about us. Our children's children and their children are depending on us to do what needs to be done. And it's simply by taking care of ourselves.
Yeah.
This conversation is not about doing anything for anybody else. We're not telling you to tell, your husband or your mother or your father. We're saying take care of you.
Take care of yourself,
You're
ladies.
worth it. You're
It's
worth
worth
it.
it.
That's what I would say. You are worth it.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Where can we find you on social media, your website? Share with us all of that information. Tell us where, again, where we can find your journal. Just tell us how they can connect with you because you do offer services.
Yes.
And so if someone is themselves are looking for services, coaching, we want to be able to share where they can find you for coaching and counseling
Absolutely.
sessions.
Yeah. So my website is
And I'm going to
www.lifeafterlovellc.com.
drop that in the chat.
Yes. And the LLC is not just about me, it's let love come. Whatever that love is for you, that it can come, and joy can happen again. Of course, Facebook, the same, Life After Love, space LLC. And then Instagram, Life After Love. I'm just Life After Love
You life after
LLC
love on all the
all
socials.
together. So yeah, I don't have Twitter or TikTok or anything like that just yet. But that is where you can reach me. My journal is on Amazon. It's in some local bookstores, the African American Museum here in Evansville, a Coma bookstore here in Evansville, and also at Ascension Health here in Evansville in their gift shop at the hospital.
Okay.
So that is how you can reach me. And I would be more than willing to take you on for referral, for any other services if I'm not the one. Consultation to see what we can do to be able to promote healing and to take you to the next level. Most recently, I've been selected the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer with
Yeah.
Plank Nutrition Bar. So I'm excited about that.
Yes.
More details to come about that. But yeah, that's how you can find me.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. We're going to wrap up the conversation there. I thank you for your time. I thank you for sharing on today. I really appreciate what you do. For you, I know that is ministry is always been in you, to minister to women in that way. Listen, if anybody know Sani, that's what we call her. We call her Sani. Listen, even when we was not grown, Sonny was grown, okay?
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sonny has been my friend that's been grown before we was grown.
Yes, yeah. We
And
gonna
so,
party, but we going to church.
oh, listen, yes, 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 we gonna pray. We gonna party,
Yeah,
but we gonna pray.
that's right. That's right.
And so I am just blessed to have her a part of my sister circle. Blessed to just watch and see you grow into the woman that God has just always fashioned for you to be. And so I appreciate you on this evening. I want you to stick around, so don't go anywhere. I'm gonna put you backstage, but I want you to stay on board, and we'll kind of wrap up. But everybody give Cassandra a hand or put some kissy lipsticks in the chat. If you are checking in, thank you for sharing with us. You saw she shared the website Life After Love LLC, and that has been shared in the chat. You can find her on social media and all that good stuff. Life After Love, and it's important to journal. So thank you, Cassandra.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this is it's been a good conversation, and I hope it was good for you on this evening. Listen, this was so important for me, and we could have probably talked for a long time, but I kind of wanted to end it there, and just for everybody to know how important it is to get care, to seek help. I think if you didn't understand or glean or gain anything from tonight, hopefully you know how important it is to seek help. We cannot keep stuff bottled in, ladies. We can't keep stuff pushed under the rugs. When you do that, you develop stress and anxiety and depression, and that's when the panic attacks come in. It affects every walk of our life. It affects how we perform on our jobs. It affects how well we're able to you know serve and support our families. It just impacts every walk of life, and so traditionally, historically, we as Black women have not always done a good job of taking care of our emotions and our mental health. Um, Awareness is there now, and it's important to continue to have these conversations. So that's what She Is Namia High Heels and Lipstick Conversations will do. We will continue to have these kinds of conversations. Um, and y'all check out my girl Cassandra on her social media pages, or check her out on her website if you yourself are looking for services. So, next topic. Let me tell you a little bit about what we're going to talk about next time. And I will be coming before you again, same time, 7:30 Central Standard Time, May 12th, right after Mother's Day. We're going to talk about ironically, one of my friends in the chat said, talking about toxic femininity, we're going to talk about the art of femininity, tapping into femininity, what it looks like, what it feels like to just exude that feminine energy, and why it's the counter of toxic masculinity. And so that is going to be the subject of our next High Heels and Lipstick Conversations. But you can continue to check me out on social media, continue to check out our topics of the day, which I will have topics of the week. I will have another topic of the week for you on next week. On tomorrow, actually. I'm sorry, tomorrow. Last week we talked about is it important for us as women to bring something to the table? We always put the onus on men to bring something to the table, and we want to know what they bring to the table, and are they protectors, are they providers, are they this and they that? But is it important for us as ladies as well to bring something to the table when it comes to relationships? So we talked about that last week. We're going to have a new topic on tomorrow, which I will share on She Is Namia on Instagram. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on TikTok. You can find me on Facebook, all of the social media platforms. You can even find me on Twitter for the topic of the week on tomorrow. Um, I want to give a final thought before we get out of here. So, if you have tuned into me thus far, you know that I do these lipstick affirmations. And one of the lipstick affirmations that I want to share is one that I've shared before previously on my social media platforms, but it fits for this evening discussion. And so I want to leave you with this on this evening, a lipstick affirmation. Okay. Sis, and I know some of y'all hate that word, but affectionately, I'm gonna call y'all sis. When I say sis, it's a good thing coming from me. But it says, sis, stop and learn to let it go. We gotta let it go, ladies. There's some stuff that is weighing you down, some bags that are weighing you down. Like I said earlier, it may be a Coach bag, it may be Marc Jacobs, it may be whatever the other name brands out there that you're carrying, but in it is a bunch of stuff, a bunch of toxic stuff that you're carrying around. So we got to learn to let some of that stuff go. But additionally, chill out mentally and emotionally. Sometimes we got to woosah, take a chill pill sometimes. Take some time to rest. Ladies, we got to rest when it is time to rest. When our body says you need more than 8 hours of sleep, take your more than 8 hours of sleep. If it's 10 hours, take your 10 hours of sleep because you've been working 50, 60 hours all throughout the week. At some point, you got to allow your body to rest. I don't believe in the older you get, the less sleep you need. Our bodies may be able to function off of less sleep, but it wreaks havoc on our body. It wreaks havoc on our mental. It wreaks havoc on our health. When we don't get enough sleep, we feel it in our hearts. It wreaks havoc on our diet. So you got to take some time to rest. Okay, you got to take some time to just take a nap sometime. Don't be guilty for taking a nap. You'll get it done later. That work, that email, that whatever, it'll be there. So take some time to rest. Say no for once. You got to learn to say no. You can't do everything. You can't be in charge of everything. You can't be at everybody's engagement, gathering, or party or recognition. Sometimes you got to say no. You just can't do it all. Sometimes you got to say no. Walk away from the need to be right and the constant engagement in battle. That's big for us as Black women. Okay. We always got to be right. I'm learning that with being a married woman, more of a newlywed. You can't engage in battle all the time. Sometimes you got to learn to just um, not speak your mind all the time. It doesn't mean that you don't speak up when it's necessary, but sometimes you got to learn when to pick your battle. So you can't be in constant battle all the time. Avoid the temptation to make their issues your issues. Sometimes we take on other folks' issues. Sometimes we allow other individuals to project their issues and what's going on in their world and their mental health and their issues. We take it on because we're empaths. That's the new term, the new age term. We're empaths. Sometimes we just take on other folks' stuff because that goes back to that Superwoman Syndrome. We want to save everybody. We want to be there for everybody. But sometimes you got to learn not to allow their issues to become your issues. Then you got to lay your burdens at the feet of Jesus. You got to know how to spiritually handle the stuff that you're going through. And there's some stuff that we're going through that only God and God Himself is going to be able to get us on the other side of. So you got to learn to take that stuff to the altar, take that stuff to the feet of Jesus, and leave it there. Ask for help when you need it. You got to ask for help. Call and say, "Hey sis, you busy this weekend? Can you help me with XYZ project? Can you come over?" Your spouse, whoever, I need help. I'm not going to be able to do it on my own. I need some assistance. We got to learn to ask to seek help. Um, you don't always have to take the lead. You don't always have to be the one in charge. And yes, it is time for you to take off your cape. Take off the Superwoman cape, ladies. It's wreaking havoc on our mental and emotional health. Okay. I love you, ladies. I will see you next time on May 12th, Thursday, May 12th, same time. Share this video if there was something that I said that you that appealed to you, that you liked. Share this video with your friends. Continue the conversation. Just because the video end, the streaming end, doesn't mean that you can't continue the conversation. I love you, smooches, and I will see you next time. All right.